Hi everyone, I'm JD. Welcome back to my channel. So excited to share with you my vintage French journal collection. Oh my goodness, this has been a long time coming. I absolutely love these journals. It's the tissue paper cover and I've used Reader's Digest books, and it is varnished with Gloss Varnish Liquitex brand, I believe. I do have a tutorial on how I made these covers. If you're interested, I will link that below. And they are just filled with lots and lots of ephemera, vintage ephemera. So this is why it's been a long time coming. It just took me forever to source everything and basically collect. So here we go. There's lots of pockets, lots of sewing, and yeah, this is exciting. Here we go. Alright, so to start us off in this vellum pocket is a French postcard, vintage French postcard that you can write the details on the back if you want, but then I also have my stamp with a library card since it is a book journal, and you could write the details there. Glassine bag, so it's got all my favourite things as well in here. This is vintage graph paper. There are vintage French book pages throughout this journal. This is one of them. And they're interspersed with coffee dyed papers that are either blank or different types. So there's a variety of lines and graph and grid. And then this glassine bag here is removable, so you can play around with that in this French ephemera pocket. And this is very special because it's actually authentic ephemera from my own life. So that's from my sister-in-law's grandma. So that just tucks into there. I wanted to do a variety of all different types of embellishing too. So a lot of it's sewn in, but there are occasional paper clips and staples, and some is actually stuck directly onto the page, like this one. And I made a whole bunch of handmade tags with vintage French book page or vintage music paper or vintage piano paper, and they can write all on the back too, those tags of different sizes, and I sewed all around them. There is a tuck spot behind this damask bag too. I've also interspersed receipts and invoices, vintage French ones, throughout the journal. There's some tracing paper for some texture as well, coffee dye paper. We've got a bunch of vintage French vocabulary cards, whoops, and just bits of French ephemera as well, scattered throughout. In that pocket page, another receipt. This is a vintage piano paper tag in some vintage French ephemera. Oh, and there's also vintage wallpaper pockets throughout this journal too. Oh, and just so much discovery. Vintage French magazine type paper, and I think this was from a fashion book or something. Another vintage wallpaper pocket with a tag. This one is so cute. So this little pocket was authentic vintage ephemera, and I added a vintage French stamp to it. And then we've just got another vocab card, and this is a vintage tea card, and these are throughout the journal as well. So then going on to the other side of the signature, there's 3 signatures. I made a whole bunch of handmade pockets as well with sewing. And there's just a tag inside there. I love how you can see it through the window. Okay, there's a texture page again. This little pocket with another tag. And this glassine bag, we've got a fold out page. So this one was quite large, and you can journal all on the back of that. And then we've got a large ad pocket, and inside, this came from a French map book, which is quite cool. Stapled on these flips, so you've got some secret journaling space of these vintage receipts. Going into the second signature, I've got doily and book page, vintage French book page, vintage French ephemera here with the script. Isn't that gorgeous? This one is my favourite layout, I think, because this is authentic vintage French envelope. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? And I've just tucked in another tag and another book page. And then this is stamp collector's paper or page, And then this one is from a vintage French agenda or diary. Love it. This is vintage ledger paper in here. So this is another vintage magazine type page. This is a vintage library card. This is vintage lace. It's got that beautiful French blue. There's vintage French recipe cards in these envelope pockets. So I just love all the French writing on the back. This is a vintage bridge card. Another handmade pocket out of piano paper and a tag. And this is vintage French illustrated dictionary. And we've also got vintage French pocket. Another recipe card. This is vintage grammar book paper that you can write on. Love all of these pockets, all these pockets. Another damask bag inside here, and this is like a snippet from another map book page type thing for France. I like this music notation page too. Just love the sound of that. A vintage music paper pocket with a tag. This is quite cute. So there's a French newspaper, another type of thing represented, vintage French newspaper in this pocket. And this is one of my floating pockets that I made. So there's a pocket here, and then there's a pocket here behind it. You can see that, which I love. So I wanted to represent a few floating pockets. Another vintage receipt. This one is just another handmade pocket with sewing. And then that slips in there with another tea card, doily and vellum page, magazine page, beautiful illustrations. This is a bit special too. We've got a glassine bag with vintage playing card with florals. I like this too. This is a full-size pocket, and there is a large newspaper tag in there. Alright, we're getting towards the end. This is cool. It's another floating pocket, but it's made out of piano paper this time, and we've got that wallpaper from the antique place and a vintage slide, photo slide. So very interactive. I love this pocket here. So fun. This is one of my favourite pages too, just because of all the bits and pieces. Won't take that out, it's paper clipped in, but you know, receipts and ads, and a vintage playing card, vintage wallpaper, and a vintage tag. So lots going on this page. Same with this. This is another favourite layout, because in here this glassine bag has a vintage French seed packet, and then we've got tags and all these goodies. And this is another floating pocket. I love it. So there's a newspaper tag and a book page tag, all vintage as well. So let's make that go further down so you can see the stitching. This is one of my favourites. Oh my gosh, so many favourites. I stitched this on this vintage piece here, and you could secret drilling space. And this is a envelope pocket that I made using piano paper, and here is another vintage French envelope. This one I actually made into a flap because it had the flap on it. Oh, I should mention I do have these scanned now in my shop. I'll have to share a different video about that, but I got a new Etsy digital kit with 20 envelopes with the fronts, and I think there's about 18 backs of the envelopes too. So what you see in these journals of those envelopes will be in that digital kit. Another French postcard. So gorgeous, oh my goodness. This is pretty special too. There is a vintage cabinet card in here. You know, those really thick cabinet cards. So a lot of these I didn't stick to the page, just in case these people wanted to take them out and play with them, especially because they're vintage. A flap there, doily, vintage newspaper tag, receipt paper. This is fun, so it's sewing here, and another book page. This is fun too. First time I did this, I made some bookmarks and just attached at the back so you could use that for where you're up to in the journal when you're journaling in it. And then Okay, these are the freebies, some of the freebies. I usually don't show this, but I just wanted to because it's so fun. This is what I've been collecting. So vintage French stamps. There's some modern French ones in there too. There's just another offcut, a scrappy bit of receipt, French receipt. And my card is in the back, and I'll put the thank you note in there too. This is just another page, but it's so thick, so you might want to cut it up or use it as a background or something rather than a page, or maybe a cover. So there'll be some other goodies as well, but that is a flip through. So fun. Oh my gosh, look at that. It was a long time coming just to collect everything. I've already done a flip through pretty much during the lives when I made these as well, and I did a proper one on Patreon for patron Katie. So these are all taken, these were pre-orders, so thank you so much to the lovely ladies who have already ordered these. And who are they? Jude, Pamela and Katie. Thank you so much. I've got one more book cover to make. It's just going to be a bit more of a project because these all have 3 signatures and the other one is going to be 4 signatures, so I've just got to source a few more French stuff to put in there. And then what I thought I'd do is I would make at least maybe 1 or 2 glassine bag French journals like this, so some smaller ones that won't take as long to fill up, and if you're interested in those, let me know as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. These are just so, I'm in love with them. So happy with how they turned out, and I really hope the new owners absolutely love them. I'll just do a very quick little flip through so you can see that they are very similar, but I should mention the layout is slightly different in them, just depending on the pieces of ephemera that I had and that kind of thing. But you can see that, yeah, they're very similar. They've got the same amount of things and the same types of things, just the layout might be different. So yeah, that is the journals. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!